Hello. So now that we've reviewed how, like types of analysis again in general, I'm going to walk you through how it might look when you're applying this sort of thinking to the essay that we're writing now, where we're using non-traditional evidence, in this case, historical examples of one method of social action being used in order to prove your claim that that method is most effective. So I'm going to apply the same types of analysis, but in this case, I'm going to share my screen, and we're thinking about how I might do that. If I think of, oh yeah, just to review, you guys have seen this example before. My claim is that court cases are the best way to create social change. And the evidence in this first paragraph is all about the LGBTQ plus rights movement and the way that, specifically, I go over three court cases in which the activists have used the courts and won and gained rights for LGBTQ people. The last example, the one I emphasize, is Obergefell v. Hodges, which was the Supreme Court decision which legalized same-sex marriage across the country. So what might analysis look like for this example if we're using cause and effect? Again, ultimately, the long game effect I'm trying to prove is that court cases are the best way to create social change, since that is my claim. But the way I might use cause and effect here specifically is by showing the impact of these court cases and then extrapolating that they're very effective because of the impact. I may even within that compare it to another method that's been used or another method that could have been used. So let me show you my example. In this case, I say, as a result of these court cases, rights for LGBTQ people were expanded tremendously in the past 40 years. Further, since the Supreme Court has power over the entire country, this action was able to legalize same-sex marriage across the US all at once, rather than having to fight for marriage rights one state at a time. See there, I'm not just saying, look, the result was same-sex marriage was legalized everywhere. I'm emphasizing the parts of it that make my method seem even more effective. So I'm saying, since the Supreme Court has power over the whole country, same-sex marriage was legalized everywhere in all the states across the United States instead of just one at a time. And then the bonus that you can throw in there to deepen your analysis is comparing it to other methods. So I could add the sentence, this expansive application of the court's ruling is one of the primary reasons it can be a more effective method of social change than other methods which have more local, that may only have local effect. Okay, what might it look like if I use the demonstration method then? So in this case, demonstration, remember we're trying to show examples. Since all of your analysis is coming after a series of examples, you don't have to analyze after every single historical event that you put in there if you're putting several in the same paragraph. What you're trying to demonstrate is that this is a pattern of success. The court case is the most effective way to create social change because look, it's happened a bunch of times. And in this case, the way that looks, if we look at my example, it says this series of successes, referring to the three I talk about in the paragraph, demonstrates the overall effectiveness of using the courts to gain civil rights. Over and over again, LGBTQ plus activists challenged unfair laws using the judicial system, and over again, the rulings in these cases suggested that using the court was an effective way to expand their civil rights. In this method especially, if you're using demonstration in particular, you may want to add a sentence that sort of moves towards larger implications, because otherwise it can just say, look, it worked, so it's the best. Look, it worked. Like, you want to say a little bit more, so it can be good to sort of think about, okay, so what? So what? It's worked a couple times before. In this case, I say, ultimately, this persuades us to believe that the Supreme Court can be used effectively by activists to ensure individual rights are protected when lawmakers fail to do so. Right? So I'm saying, not only has it worked several times in my analysis, that's not just what I'm pointing out. I'm saying, so what? Why should you care? Because this persuades us to believe that activists can use the court specifically to ensure individual rights are protected when lawmakers fail to do so. Okay, so those are just two ways that you can use these analytical sentence frames and use the same method that we've been using all year.